The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Thanksgiving Day, DraftKings picks, spread picks, maybe even some showdown look-aheads for this Thanksgiving slate during Week 12. All the normal shows will still come out addressing the Sunday set of games, and even the ranking show will have the Thursday games in it. But we need to do a specific Thanksgiving Day slate breakdown because it's one of the most fun slates of the year. Joining me to break this all down, host of The Takecast and writer for A Billion Sites, Davis Mattek.
Hey, how's it going, Pat? Very excited to do some Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so I do need to let the people know, first off, before we really get into this, that, number one, give the episode a like. It goes a long way. And if you want to get into a draw for $20 DK, you have to hit that like button. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section and let me know which defense you would use on the main Thursday slate. This is 3-game slate, the 16s, but you cannot use the Bears. Which other defense would you use? Best price per dollar defense that's out there, and boom, you're in a draw for $20 DK. I'll announce the winner live on Monday's show, 10 a.m. Eastern time on Monday with Chris Meany. I do want to let everyone know Chris Meany is going to be back in studio Thursday morning, so while everyone else is off, the PME will be live 11 a.m. Eastern time, breaking down this slate of games, updating you on all the injuries, and taking your questions live on the show. So join us for the hour before you settle in and avoid your family. Do what you got to do, and join us for that as well. So that's going to be fun. And sub to the audio podcast because we're in a push for 10 million listens and downloads. We need as many people downloading and listening, or just downloading because it counts the same as the listen, as possible to get to that $10 million number. Davis, where do you want to start? I kind of want to talk about how to best structure your teams for the complete 3-game slate. Like, I've always had a lot of success on Thursday loading up on the first game, even with some of the chalkier players and trying to hit big there, and then late swapping my way onto the chalk later if I get out to a big lead.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. My big thing has always been just like figuring out game stacks. So, and I think a big thing that you'll want to do is if you hit on the chalk from the early games, you'll be able to swap into Breeze, Kamara, Thomas. And if your lineups are looking bad, I guess luckily there is a pretty good swap option with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Tevin Coleman.
There is. So, like, the discrepancy between the games is pretty large in terms of point total. Like, that late game, the Saints-Falcons game, is a 60-point total. The opening game is 45, and then the Dallas Cowboys game is 40 and a half. So, logically, everyone's going to stack that later game, but should we be trying to find the pieces to either fade in that game to really get off them? Like, I really think that Traquan Smith is going to come in super chalky, but he's someone that I just don't have a ton of interest in here coming off a huge game.
I actually don't know how chalky Traquan is going to be because I think that people know that the Saints offense kind of goes. I think that they know the Saints offense can go in a lot of different directions. And I think guys like Kenny Golladay are going to get a lot of ownership, as well as Amari Cooper and Taylor Gabriel. So I think Traquan is not going to be I don't think he'll be 30% owned or anything wild like that.
But is he a substantially better play than the other fringe New Orleans pieces? Because we see week to week, this could change. It could be Kirkwood. Kirkwood could be the guy you want to own.
No, I do not. I don't think that Traquan is significantly better than I think he's better, but I don't think he's he's as good of a play as ownership will suggest, because he's still going to be owned. You are right about that. He'll be way more owned than Austin Carr.
Yeah, and he's a better play than Austin Carr, but if we're trying to differentiate on this smaller slate, that I just think a fade at Traquan makes a lot of sense if he's going to come in at even 20-something% ownership, because, the ownerships are going to be out of whack because it's such a small slate, but he just seems like a very logical guy to get away from.
If you just wanted to go super contrarian with that game, that high total, you would go Matt Ryan, you would go Tevin Coleman, you would go Julio over Kamara or Thomas in terms of your expensive guy, and then you would use Sanu or Ridley.
Yeah, I can see that making sense. I mean, Hooper's probably going to be pretty popular.
Yeah,
as,
I think,
the
I think
Atlanta guy.
Hooper will be the chalk at the tight end position.
All right, well, let's go game by game. Let's start with Detroit and Chicago. We'll introduce the spreads into this too. Detroit's the home team. They're favored by 3.5 at home. This game opened at 4, but Mitch Trubisky is dealing with a shoulder problem, which could be relatively problematic for him. This could be the sneaky game, I think, that you would want to game stack, because it's going to be the second most popular, obviously, but I think an overwhelming majority of people are going to stack that late game, that's where you would want to go. Like, at quarterback, everyone's going to pay for Breeze. I really like Matt Ryan. I actually think he might be a better play than Breeze per dollar and per ownership on this slate, but Trubisky is probably going to be the third highest owned quarterback, and, I mean, he has a higher upside than everyone, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think Trubisky is definitely the second quarterback that I would want for tournaments. I think even over Ryan. I think Trubisky adds so much upside with his legs that I think his ability to get like a 35-point game, like a slate winning game, is higher than Ryan's.
Do we put anything like it? If you're only going to play one lineup, this doesn't make sense. But let's say you end up playing like 5. Is there any validity to like a Lions stack here, or is the defense for the Bears just too good?
I mean, their defense is pretty good, but certainly I think Stafford, Galladay, I think Galladay will be popular, but no one will have Stafford. So like Stafford, Galladay, Bruce Ellington, your boy, Bruce Ellington. I think that is a pretty decent contrarian stack. Like I don't play enough teams to even give any ownership to Colt McCoy. So So I don't even want to go that contrarian. So the most contrarian I would go would be Stafford, Galladay, Ellington.
All right. So who are the plays in this game you're actually looking at, even if you're cobbling together like 3 lineups? Like, where does Galladay sit amongst the elite receivers? Is he a play? Like, does it make any sense not to pay for Julio and not to pay for Michael Thomas and just play Kenny Galladay? Because I'm not convinced that it is.
Yeah, if I set the number at 3, at least one of those teams would have Kenny Galladay, but I think that Taylor Gabriel, he might end up being at the end. He might be my highest exposure player of this entire 3-game slate.
Why Gabriel over someone like Anthony Miller, who just continues to catch touchdowns?
Gabriel has the very unique combination of he gets gadget plays ran for him that are super high success rate, very close to the line of scrimmage and good on a PPR site, and the upside of occasionally getting deep shots. So I just think at 3,700, he's a play that has a lot of outs. He can get there in a variety of ways, and his target volume in competitive games is generally very good for the Bears.
So are we in on Bruce Ellington at that cheap price? And do you think that everyone's going to be in on him?
Yeah, he's the chalk. He is the cheap chalk. Like if you go any site, you run your lineup optimizers or whatever, you're going to get Bruce Ellington. Yeah, I believe he had 8 targets last week.
9.
Yeah, so I just think that is very easy chalk.
Is there a way where you could look down there and you could find yourself with like TJ Jones instead?
No.
No? Absolutely not?
You'd have to be playing like 20, 30 lineups before you got into the, should I get some TJ Jones level conversation?
Okay, so we get into this every week. Like, if Bruce Ellington, and maybe this is different on a shorter slate, but if he's going to be the chalk, let's say like 30% of teams have Bruce Ellington, which I can envision because $3,200, good target share, makes sense actually against this Chicago defense. If you have to get the ball out quickly, you throw to him. Wide receiver chalk at the cheap end is almost a 100% fade for me on a main slate all the time. It makes no sense to go to the chalky cheap guys at receiver and even at tight end as well. But is this a smaller slate, so you kind of have to bite that bullet? Or do you pivot off of, and if you play 3 teams, instead of using Ellington on all 3, you divvy it up between one you use, I don't know, Trey Quinn on one.
Yeah, Trey Quinn is the easy pivot off of Ellington. And I actually think it's not even bad if you wanted to go 0% Ellington and go Trey Quinn at that spot in all your lineups. I don't think that's bad at all.
I mean, I'm looking at Keith Kirkwood as well as a pivot play off of him. Like, is Brandon Marshall going to play? Do we know that yet?
He is expected to be inactive.
All right, so if he's inactive, Keith Kirkwood sitting right there, $3,200 as well. 5 targets a week ago in that rout against the Eagles. He had 2 the week before that, but 33 yards, 45 yards the past few weeks. He could just he could be the guy, like, if they're not just targeting Traquan Smith over and over and over like they did last Sunday, let's say you can free up like 4 to 7 targets for Kirkwood. I would roll the dice on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think using a little bit of Kirkwood, a little bit of Carr, if you're making, 10 lineups or whatever, I don't have a real problem with that at all.
Like I think I wouldn't even consider Carr because he really hasn't done anything outside of score that one touchdown in like decades. So Kirkwood actually seems more involved in this offense.
Yeah, and that might just be like that could have just been something that they had for that game because they needed to figure something out for an outside wide receiver right away. I'm honestly not sure. I just know that I've seen the Saints do this 100 times where a guy seems like he's going to be viable for fantasy and then all of a sudden he's not playing.
All right, so running backs from this game, would you go Cohen or Howard?
Neither. Not really. I would go Cohen, but I'm not particularly interested in either.
Okay, so would you go Riddick or Blunt from
Riddick?
Yeah.
Riddick. Blunt 0%. I won't have him in Showdown. I won't have him in anything. 0% Blunt for me.
Okay, so I like Riddick as well. Do you think people will get off of him because you see that big red number 1 opponent rank next to his name on DraftKings, or do people know that like he's just going to end up catching like 7 passes? And he's a Thanksgiving hero, Theo Riddick.
I think people will not be super on Riddick because there's a little bit of Zenner chat, and he did not play. He did not play in the slot at all last week, which he had the 2 weeks before. So I don't think Theo is going to be real popular on this slate.
So, like, when we look at the spread just for a second, like I mentioned, it's plus 3.5 for Detroit. Now, doesn't that seem small?
It could be because Trubisky is banged up.
It could also be because they played in the Sunday night game and it's a quick turnaround onto Thursday, and then they have to go to Detroit. And Detroit, a lot of the players on this team are pretty used to playing on the short week. Like, I can't imagine anyone going to the window and betting the Lions though at plus 3.5.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are people out there who will, but it won't be me. This Lions offense has not looked very good to me.
No, but like Detroit's like sneaky good against the spread.
Yeah, that seems like Matt Stafford's entire career. It's just going to be dedicated to being sneakily good against the spread.
I'm just looking at it right now. 71%, it's very early in the week, but 71% of the cash is on the Bears. 80% of actual bets laid are on the Bears right now, and the line is moving towards the Lions. Like that's not a good sign. Like that's pretty obvious reverse line movement.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would bet the Bears in this game.
Would you just bet the Bears money line?
What is the money line right now?
The money line is minus 200.
Minus 200. Yeah, I probably would.
Just don't worry about the
points. I just don't even mess the points. I just don't think the Lions win this game. Like Trubisky would have to play really, really bad for the Lions to win this game.
Like, okay, so I mean, I like Trubisky. I can get on board with him as my like only quarterback. I don't know who I would want to use with him because ideally Trubisky's kind of like Cam at this point, where if he's going to hit his peak in term, he's going to have one of those like 6 touchdown games, which is probably not going to happen. But if he can like rush into, then you're looking great. But then you also don't want to stack him with anyone.
No, I mean, I'm really high on Gabriel, so I feel pretty good about stacking him with Gabriel.
You do?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I think the guy to play from this game, if you're going to do it receiver-wise, is just Allen Robinson because no one's going to want to play him.
Yeah, no one wants him because he's a little bit too expensive and Darius Slay on him and everything. But, I mean, actually, it would be Trey Burton. Trey Burton won't hold any ownership, and he has not seen good target volume any of the last 3 weeks. So Burton would kind of be the sneaky way to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially with only being $200 less than Austin Hooper, that would probably that's pretty interesting, actually. So I like Trubisky here. I can understand why people would play Blunt.
I get it. I won't.
Like, if you told me that one player scores 3 touchdowns in this game, it's either Jordan Howard, Mitch Trubisky, or LeGarrette Blount.
Right. Yeah, I totally get the logic. It's just I don't play enough teams. I'll probably play 10 teams maybe, and I will not have Blount.
How much is Blunt anyway? $3,400. That's so like if you're gonna get down into it, like Howard comes in at $4,100. Cohen is $5,300. But even below that, like you're dealing with Blunt at 34. Like he's a substantially better play than like Ito Smith, isn't he?
You think Blunt is better than Ito?
I don't think Blunt is better than Ito, but if I'm trying to win one of these GPPs, the path through Blunt makes more sense than the path through Ito.
I don't even think Ito will be owned. I don't think that should come into the consideration at all.
I'm just saying guys around the same. Like those are the only two guys down there that I can like fathom playing would be Ito and Blood.
Well, Bibbs too. Bibbs will be the passing down
Bibbs
back.
doesn't. Yeah, but we say that every week, and Bibbs doesn't do anything. Like Byron Marshall's playing for them now.
Bibbs has 3 touchdowns on the year, man.
And how many of those came in the script that we thought they were going to come in?
One in the Atlanta game and one in the New Orleans game.
He scored one in the New Orleans game?
Yeah.
But wasn't the Bibbs touchdown against Atlanta like a rushing touchdown and when they were up in that game?
I mean, it's possible.
Let's see. No,
I do not remember.
It was a receiving touchdown.
It was
in that game. He had 4 touches.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not projecting Bibbs for like a high workload or anything like that. But I guess one thing I'm doing is I'm not playing Adrian Peterson at all. Not playing him in Showdown. Not playing him in the main. I'm just excluding him from my player pool. So a natural pivot for that from me would be to play Bibbs.
Defenses. The Bears are only $2,900. Guess their ownership in that giant wishbone.
46%.
Yeah. Like they're a fade defense, right? Just to get away from that ownership and hope they don't smash.
I think the good defense is the Saints.
I was gonna say the Saints or just pay up for the Cowboys.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the Bears certainly. Would you be shocked if the Bears scored 18 DraftKings points?
Oh no. I think the Bears are the best play. Like
right.
If you took all prices out, you took ownership out. I think the Bears are the like by far the best play, especially at this price. This price doesn't seem to make any sense. But
right.
I think if like you're completely on the same page as me, that they could push 50% in these tournaments, and we know defenses are just weird scoring. That they could have a good game and score 11 points if Detroit just comes out and try like Detroit's a super slow team. When they do what they want to do, at least recently, I mean, maybe that's more with Carry-On and he's not playing, but they're going to try to run the ball, slow down the pace. That it's not conducive to a great fantasy game. That if they only score 11, but you can get the defense that lucks their way into 20, you have a huge advantage over everyone.
Yeah, and just in general, cheap wide receivers, cheap tight ends, and defenses, that's a very good chalk to avoid because people are far more confident. People are far more confident in their ability to prognosticate those positions than the scoring would indicate.
Okay, let's move to the next game. The second, Washington at Dallas. Colt McCoy, obviously starting for the Washington Redskins. Doesn't look like we're going to get any Jamison Crowder in that game. The Skins are 7-point dogs in Dallas. The over-under is 40.5. I assume this is going to be the game that has the fewest amount of just total ownership in it on that main slate for the Wishbone or whatever other 3-game tournament that you play in. Michael Gallup is real iffy for this game. He had a personal tragedy.
I think he is confirmed to be playing now.
He is confirmed to be playing because I know he was away from the team on Monday.
I believe that is what I believe. I just read something about that maybe 2 hours ago.
Okay, so who do you think the highest owned players in this game are going to be? I'm going to guess Cooper. Do you have to play Zeke?
Oh no, Elliott will be the highest owned player in this game.
Will he be the highest owned player across the board?
No, I think Michael Thomas.
I could see Michael Thomas being a fade this week.
Yeah, I mean, you're built in an elite pivot right there because you have Julio Jones with very similar upside and maybe only 75% of the ownership.
So Zeke is $8,600. Like I don't see a situation where I'm not playing Zeke.
Yeah, Zeke is just an amazing play.
So you play Zeke, you put him at $8,600. Then who else on the Cowboys would you consider? Like I like Dallas's defense, even though they're the most expensive, but they're only $3,200. There's no. The hell is his name? Jeff Swaim in this game. So you get Uncle Rico or you get Blake Jarwin. Do you have any, or Dalton Schultz? Do you take a flyer on one of those loser tight ends?
Yeah, I think that you can take a flyer on Jarwin, or Gallup even, I think is playable.
Gallup would be playable. Do you think Amari Cooper is playable?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lineup construct where you go neither Julio Jones or Michael Thomas, and you use Kenny Golladay, Amari Cooper, and Allen Robinson or Anthony Miller, and that gives you just not a ton of chalk, and you right away you're set up with a higher floor lineup that is not going to be super owned.
Could you, if you were let's say, like, do you think the Cowboys are going to win this game? I think the world thinks the Cowboys are going to win this game, right?
Yes.
So let's say there's some sort of weird circumstance where we get sort of like the Gurley game from Monday night where he has a decent game but doesn't score the touchdown. Is there a way where you would fade Elliott and just play Dak at quarterback?
Yeah, totally. Because Dak has a little bit of rushing upside too. Like, again, it just depends on how many teams you're making. If you're making 5 teams, maybe do a Zeke fade with Dak and Cooper. Like I think that kind of makes sense.
I'm just looking at the receivers right now. Beasley is what? Beasley's 42.
Beasley is definitely the dude who scores 2 touchdowns and ruins Thanksgiving for everybody.
Yeah, but he's only $4,200. I think he's going to carry ownership.
You think Beasley will be owned?
People like Cole Beasley.
Yeah, people do like Cole. I mean, I see it.
So if you had to like power rank the 3 Dallas receivers, obviously Cooper's the best play, but he's $5,700. And when we look at Cole Beasley, he's 42. And what's Gallup? Gallup is 35. I guess he's one of those guys that you could, like, would you pivot off of Bruce Ellington chalk just to take Michael Gallup?
Yes. Yeah. Gallup is a guy I like because I think Gallup is like a good player. And I think that he has been running routes. I think he had 5 targets last week, the same as Cooper, and ran, I think, 35 routes. So like I actually totally think that it is possible that Cooper has like 18 DraftKings points. I think that's in play.
Okay. Washington Redskins DraftKings play for the week. They're going to be the team that is the fewest owned of anyone. And I think Trey Quinn and Jordan Reed would be the only 2 guys I'd consider.
Yeah, not playing Doxson. Not interested in Doxson. Reed definitely, and Quinn definitely. Quinn is a guy they stashed on the practice squad all year, and in his first game they started him like he was ready to go.
Yeah, and he pushed Maurice Harris to the outside, took over the slot. Now, a lot of that was Alex Smith type throws that the slot was just continuously getting a lot of work in the Skins offense. But Colt McCoy, with him leaning on Quinn and Reed, it seems like that would translate forward.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're very, I think that's probably partly why Colt McCoy is on their roster. They're like very similar sorts of players.
Do we know if Chris Thompson's been officially ruled out yet? I assume he's not playing.
He is questionable, but he has not practiced now he hadn't practiced in 3 weeks.
Is he someone you could play if he plays?
If Thompson is active, yeah, I think he's a pretty interesting play because I like his ability, and I will have 0% Adrian Peterson because I don't make like enough teams. I guess if you wanted to take a very strong stance on this game, you would actually play AP.
I suppose, but like when you talk about AP and you look at that entire area, you have like Peterson's there and Thompson's there. So let's just pretend like Thompson is out. So Riddick is going to be pretty chalky because he's substantially cheaper and he's $4,500. But if you pay up and you have like Tevin Coleman and Tariq Cohen right around the same price point, like where do you think Peterson falls on an ownership perspective with those guys?
I mean, he'll be very low owned. The line suggests that he's a bad play. He did score 2 touchdowns last week, but was not even a good play with those 2 touchdowns. And people just see the backup quarterback come in. They see Colt McCoy come in and they just assume, no value on the offense at all.
I just feel like, the offensive line is so beat up with Washington and the pass rush for Dallas is so good that, and you have your backup quarterback in. Washington's D can kind of muck it up a little bit and slow these games down. Like, they're not a bad defense whatsoever, that we might get into a circumstance where Adrian Peterson just runs the ball 30 times.
I think that's a very real possibility, and that would be the counter argument to my position that you should be playing Adrian Peterson. I won't, but I totally get why a really good tournament player would be like, oh, I'm just jamming in AP, because he's probably the one guy of the slate who won't carry ownership, who could get 25 touches.
Yeah, and he sort of fits like when I was bringing up LeGarrette Blount earlier that he has the path to 3 touchdowns because he could get all the goal line work. AP is like the advanced version of that. He's more expensive. He's probably in a better matchup against Dallas than up against Chicago, but like he has the volume baked in. I think I might play AP. Like every week that people say to play AP, he fucking sucks. And then every week that everyone says don't play him, he scores 2 touchdowns.
Well, it's just totally based on if Washington is going to be competitive, he will be a very good play. If Washington is not able to be competitive, not able to create scoring chances, he won't be any good.
All right, before we get out of this game, Dallas, the most expensive defense. I think they'll come in lower owned than the Bears, so I like them in this matchup. But I do see a path. Like, if you use Adrian Peterson, could you use Washington's defense along with them, or is Washington's defense just an avoid here?
No, I mean, you can just get that contrarian. Like, if at the point in which you're just fading the betting lines, you should be wanting to get that contrarian. So I don't think there's any reason you couldn't play, because if Peterson has a good game, that likely means Dallas is chasing a little bit, and Dallas can turn the ball over if they're chasing.
Yeah, and Dak will take sacks too if they're chasing and are forced to. Like, I know the game total is so low here at 40.5, but I think if you are just playing pure contrarian, and you don't need to go contrarian with every lineup spot. I don't want to make it. I know it sounds like that's what we're talking about, but we're just looking for different kind of pressure points in lineups where you can pivot, so you can get the Zekes and everyone into your lineup. Could you game stack this game, or is that just off the table?
I guess I won't be doing it, but I could see why someone would, just because NFC East games can get kind of weird sometimes, anyways. So sure.
So yeah, like from a spread perspective, I believe this opened at 4, went to 7 after the Colt McCoy, like early lines had it at 4. It's now 7. Dallas is rolling. I think Washington can keep this close. I think when a total is 40, I'm not taking the team that's favored by more than a touchdown. Yeah, it just seems strange, especially like we've seen a lot of these interdivision games so far this year, no matter who the teams are, that once you get spreads above a touchdown, like they're generally close games.
Yeah, I'm completely on board with that.
Unless Dallas is the team of destiny. I mean, you're a Cowboys fan, recovering at least. Are they the team of destiny?
They are not the team of destiny. They just, anytime they would get into a shootout game, they're just going to lose.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I'm not high on Dallas anyway, but this defense has been so much better than I thought it would be.
The defense is not particularly surprising to me because they have a bunch of really good players. It's just that having a good defense really only takes you so far when your offense is not efficient.
At least they're using Zeke in the passing game now. Like, that's actually helping his overall value. I think he has more receptions so far this year than he had in any other year previously.
Yeah, they have learned that lesson, and not crazy about trading a first for Amari Cooper, but he at least fits like the dumb short timing passing game that Dallas wants to do.
Yeah, and he commands respect from the defense. So you can see teams do scheme to take out Elliott and then Cooper, and then it does allow like the Beasleys of the world to sort of run free underneath. That's why I think that like if you can get Beasley or Gallup, one of those two guys, as like a low owned sort of high upside player, and hope the touchdowns funnel through them, or one of those tight ends that we talked about, that I think that might be where you want to attack this game to save some money, at least in your overall lineups.
Yeah, I'm definitely in on Gallup as a punt and in on Blake Jarwin or Dalton Schultz as like just like a tournament rotation option.
All right, final game of the night, the game that I think everyone kind of wants to watch. The Falcons at the Saints. 13 points is the spread right now. Like we just talked about how these interdivision games tend to be a little bit closer. This game went to overtime earlier this season. Atlanta should have won that game. If they could just tackle Drew Brees, they would have won. But that's not what happened. So I think this game, it's hard to bet against the Saints because they've covered 8 games in a row and they just absolutely stomp people week after week. But I think there's enough familiarity with the Falcons, even though they're obviously not as good as New Orleans, that they might be able to keep this game competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pick is easily Falcons in the points.
I'm just curious to see where the public lands on that one. Do you think everyone's just kind of drinking all?
Yeah, the public sees the Saints put up 50 balls 2 weeks in a row, and they're just in on the Saints. That's all they need.
Yeah. So Breeze or Ryan? I would prefer Ryan in a nutshell.
Yeah, I prefer Breeze in a nutshell.
I just look at it and think that, I mean, the first time around in week 3, you had Matt Ryan throwing for 5 touchdowns in that game, only like 35 pass attempts. I assume he's going to pass more in this game because he'll be trailing the entire time. But I just always worry, like with Breeze, you're going to have the games where like you had last week and he goes absolutely bonkers. But you're going to have games where stupid Ingram scores 2 touchdowns or Kamara rushes 2 in or Taysom Hill comes in the game. And then all of a sudden that he's like chucking a deep touchdown. It just takes, there's paths to writing Breeze out of the game where the Saints are still good, where I don't think that's on the table with Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, even in games where Breeze scores twice, it's not that, where Ingram scores twice, it's not hard for Breeze to get 30. Breeze, he's just playing too good right now. And like they have guys who can score on screen passes and They're taking deep shots. I just think Breeze is very clearly the best quarterback.
Well, is he worth the $6,700 then on the slate?
Yeah, totally. I think I will probably make 10 teams and have Breeze on 7 or 8.
Really? I'll go with Matt Ryan in that spot to see. Well, I mean, what's the ownership disparity going to be between the two?
I think actually Ryan will be a little bit higher than you think just because he is so comparatively cheap.
Then I might just go to Trubisky then. Save the money and get the better match.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I said Breeze first, Trubisky second.
I think I would go Ryan, Trubisky, Breeze. Like those would be the three that I don't like where I'm playing so few lineups that if Breeze goes off and I don't have Breeze, I'm not going to win anyway. That if Breeze doesn't go off and let's say he scores a meager 20 points or 22 points and I can find the quarterback that outscores it. It's like the Bears defense type of thing
yeah, it's the same thing
that I think I'm okay with fading Breeze and using some of his pieces, maybe not even the most popular pieces. Like would you use Kamara or Ingram or neither or both?
Yeah, I think the double Ingram Kamara lineup is the Saints smash lineup, and I think it's totally fine. And also, Ingram will not be very owned because he's expensive. Ingram is way more expensive than really he should be. He is I believe he is the 4th highest priced running back.
He is the 3rd highest priced running back. It's Elliott, Kamara, then Ingram.
Yeah, there you go.
And then the next closest one, if we throw Kerryon Johnson out, is Tariq Cohen, who's $800 less than Mark Ingram in that spot. I still think that Ingram's gonna carry ownership, though.
I think that you would be. I think you will be surprised when the cards flip over at how owned Ingram is, because as the next couple of days wear on, Theo is going to pick up some steam. Tevin will pick up some steam, and people will be playing Howard, Ito, Bibbs, these guys.
I guess so. Like I can just see a lot of people saying, I'm playing Drew Brees and I want to pay for Kamara and I want to pay for Michael Thomas, but I can't pay for all three of them. What I'll do is take the $2,100 discount and take Ingram instead of Kamara.
Yeah, I think ownership on these short slates is like always fascinating, and a large part of it is driven by lineup optimizers. But the lineup optimizers will not put Ingram in.
You don't? Yeah, I guess they won't, but I think you're digging way too deep into how many people are using lineup optimizers versus like the general public.
I think that in the the $10 tournaments and stuff, I think it's a bigger percentage than you would expect.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty decent percentage, especially because a lot of those are guys who are putting in 20 entries with the lineup optimizers.
I guess so, but like if you look at some of these tournaments, like even just like the main slate of games, there's 88,000 people in this $20 Wishbone tournament. Like, what percentage of people are using optimizers in that 10 max?
No, more than that.
Like most people, like the majority of people playing, like if you're not having the 150 max person enter these tournaments who are definitely using optimizers, you're just having like my dad going in and throwing $20 and building a lineup full of people he knows.
But how many people actually are doing that?
Lots of people are doing that. That's the majority. That's the majority of the player base.
I don't have a good sense of it because I'm so insulated in this world. So maybe I don't have a good sense of it.
I don't think you do on this one.
I'm willing to admit that I am either wrong or just don't have enough information or don't know enough to say.
Right. It just sounds like you're very living in a bubble when it comes to this sort of thing. Like, I don't think DraftKings could be in business if it was only if it was like 90% of the people using lineup optimizers. Like, there's an edge for the people doing those things, but it's because there's
many people. What percentage of your audience do you think uses lineup optimizers?
15%.
So 5% higher than the public?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more, but I doubt it's that huge.
Okay, interesting. I mean, maybe I need to change my tournament strategy kind of based on that.
And listen, I mean, you're taking it. This is coming from me, who's terrible at NFL tournaments. So, like, let's not get crazy here. But I think that, like, when it comes to projecting ownership and trying to figure out contrarian plays and where the public is going with a lot of this stuff, I think that's, you can figure that stuff out pretty easily because the public's going to recognize guys who were good last week. That's why Traquan's going to carry ownership because he was awesome last week and he's cheap.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't use lineup optimizers for the main slate. I only use the builder tools for Showdown.
I'm also sneakily bad at using optimizers and building tools, so I just try to stay away. They can't spit out what I want them to spit out for me, so I just don't use them anymore.
Well, the key is just to build enough lineups that somewhere in there is buried what you want, and then I think the edge in lineup optimizers is it gives you some things you would not think about on your own.
I guess that's true. So, of the Saints receivers, let's power rank them price per dollar. Obviously, Thomas is the best, even though he's the most expensive. I'm going to go Kirkwood. I'm going to go Keith Kirkwood over Traquan.
Yeah, I'll just eat the chalk here. I'll go Thomas, Traquan, Kirkwood, Carr.
I think Kirkwood's going to be my guy that I just have in lineups.
I hope that you were just having a screenshot night on your Canadian Thanksgiving with Keith Kirkwood.
Just Kirkwood season?
Yeah, Kirkwood season.
Yeah.
I hope it is for you.
Well, what happens to me is like a lot what happened last week to me. Like on the show last week, I hyped up DJ Moore and I hyped up Traquan, and I used them both. And what else did I do? I just Wentz, Jeffrey, and Ertz. So
there you go.
My guys who were supposed to be terrible went off. My guys who were supposed to be good did fucking nothing.
That's the way it goes.
So I can see Kirkwood having a big game and me still coming like dead last.
Well, Pat, that would be real sad.
You did like a 3-game showdown slate breakdown on your show this week, right?
I did. They're out there. The people can go listen to them right now.
All right, so Meanie and I are going to do the showdown breakdown along with the updated spreads on Thursday. So I don't want you to give away your content on that, but tell everyone where they can go find that show.
www.patreon.com/takecast. I have breakdowns for all 3 of the showdown slates up here on a Tuesday afternoon.
All right, so very quickly, I don't want to spoil everything that's on those, and I'm going to be appearing on the Takecast later this week on Thursday, so go check that out. Subscribe to the Takecast. Great show. Terrific stuff. But one play each from each of the games. If you had to pick a captain from each of these games, we'll start with the Detroit game. If you're playing showdown slate for Detroit and the Lions, what would you be looking at? And what's sort of like an overall strategy around picking your captain?
Captain Trubisky and Captain Trubisky, stack him with Gabriel and figure out which Lions you want to fade, because like it's showdown, so everyone carries ownership. So a big part of being good at showdown is just excluding guys from 100% of your lineups. So for example, Ellington is going to be super chalk. So if you just went 0% Ellington, you're basically like you do not have duplicated lineups at that point.
See, that's not a bad strategy to use. Is there any like just random loser in that game that you would use?
Well, Zach Zenner. Zach Zenner would be the random loser that I think.
But doesn't like Belor play more than Zach Zenner?
I mean, Zach Zenner didn't even get off special teams last week after Carrion got hurt, but he would be the one loser.
I'm just looking down here. Is Brandon Powell...
Actually, you know what? Bears defense is the way to go because they're expensive, but they have probably more upside than like half of the player pool.
Bears D captain?
Yeah, like Bears D captain, fade Stafford, and just onslaught the Bears with like one, like pick your one Lion. Probably Galladay.
Yeah, is Josh Bellamy in play?
No, I will exclude him from my player pool. And like at a certain point, you just have to accept some showdown slates. You're just not going to win. Like you need to create a group of lineups that all kind of feed into the same narrative. And if the game goes the other way, you just have to accept you're going to lose.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for the obvious play at captain, I think Trubisky's very clearly the obvious play, and potentially Galladay for the Lions.
So
if you're going to go, you could go with Jordan.
You go Stafford captain with Galladay, Ellington, Riddick, Trubisky, Gabriel. That's like the game stack lineup.
Or I think that you could just bank on, hey, the Bears are favorites in this game. Detroit just has an awful run defense, even with snacks in there right now. So maybe you could use Cohen or Howard as your captain and potentially go that way.
Oh yeah. I'm excluding Jordan Howard. And if he gets there, like that's fine. But like I've noticed, especially these last two slates, the Chiefs Rams slate and the Vikings Lions slate, I excluded every running back in the player pool in my lineups. And it was a very good, like it made sense to me for both of those slates. And I did very well on both of them, just flat excluding all the running backs.
All right, so if we play the captain slate for the second game, the Dallas and Washington game, Zeke is the most expensive and most obvious captain's choice. If you weren't going to play Elliott, I guess Prescott makes sense. If you played Prescott as your captain, would you fade Elliott in that lineup, or would you still pair them together?
No, just because the spend options in that game are not great. I think the way to bet on Dallas winning the game and, putting up the necessary points, but Zeke having a not as great game is Cooper in the captain with Dak and Colt McCoy.
And if you really want low pricing to some of the guys in this game, we mentioned like Jarwin, Schultz, and Rico are all 300.
Yeah, they're all 200.
They're all three. Yeah, as captains, they're 300. So yeah, as flexes, they're $200.
I never captain. I very rarely ever run captain lineups with the guys who are below the kicker in pricing, just because the captain spot, like, it gets so many points that having a punt in that spot is very difficult for the rest of your lineup.
No, I completely. I just had it clicked on captain when I was looking at it.
Yeah,
That's
there you
go. So Gallup is a cheap option from that game. Bibbs is 2,200. If you had the choice, would you play Bibbs or Gallup? Or does that depend on your
Gallup.
build?
I'm expecting a good game from Gallup.
And if this is going to, because depending on like where this is a low point total game, is this a game to play kickers and defenses?
Yeah, I think a Brett Maher captain lineup with both of the quarterbacks, Cooper, Jordan Reed, like I think that's actually a pretty interesting lineup construction.
Because the only other one I could think of as my captain is like relatively contrarian is if you go up to the pricing, because everyone's going to want Dallas with the 7-point favorites, everything like that. You could just, if you think that Peterson can go off in this game, just use AP as your captain.
AP or McCoy. You'll never get a quarterback captain less owned than you will Colt McCoy in this slate. I'll tell you that much.
That doesn't even feel great, though.
No, but I'm just saying, like, in general, quarterbacks and the captains, they eat up a bunch of ownership, but Colt McCoy will not.
How has the distribution been among winning lineups of having the quarterback in your captain? Is it like pretty even across the board?
No, it's not. It's not nearly as rare as people think, or not nearly as common as people think. Generally, the wide receivers end up being the best captains.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Like if you have the smash running back in the game, that's who you'd want, or you get the smash receiver because quarterbacks are scoring points regardless. Like Tyreek outscored Patrick Mahomes on the Monday Night Showdown slate, didn't he?
I had 20 Tyreek captain lineups with a Gurley fade.
Is there? So you did okay.
It was a very profitable show. I fell asleep before the end of the game because I'm an old man, and then I woke up and I was like, this was a nice night for me.
I made the really stupid decision. I thought Chris Conley was going to be too chalky, so I pivoted on to Demarcus Robinson. Big mistake. Yeah, cost me some bucks.
I'll come clean. I only had 20% Conley, and I had, I think, the same of Robinson, which was not good. I would have ended up on the best possible lineup if I would have just went like 50% Conley.
Yeah. So last game, that Saints game, I know we've broke this down from that one perspective, but captain wise, I think Matt Ryan is the play in the captain spot.
Oh, I think it's Julio or Thomas. Cause like this is a game where they could legit get 50 non-captain points. Like they could just get 50 like DK points.
They could, but I could see this being a game for those other guys. Like the only other sort of like pivot that I would think about using as my captain here is use Coleman and fade the passing game for the Falcons, which doesn't even make sense.
No, I think the four most expensive guys, Thomas, Kamara, Jones, I think they are Breeze. I think they are the obvious captains. I will say in general, I just, because I'm always trying to embrace volatility with the showdowns, I very rarely captain the quarterbacks. Last night I did some with Goff, but just in general, I try and find, the guys who are just going to smash their price tags. Like, and if a game goes over a crazy total, in general, one of the wide receivers will beat their quarterback.
I'm just trying to think of like who the cheap guys in this game. Obviously, Kirkwood, $1,400.
Oh, I got one. I got a very cheap guy for you.
Is it
Dan Arnold?
Oh, hey, Darnold.
Yeah, he has 5 targets the last 2 weeks. Had 2 catches for 25 yards in each game, which is very weird. But he lets you play all of the dudes. So if you go Dan Arnold, you can go Breeze, Ryan, Julio, Thomas, like you can, and then one of the kickers.
Still think you could use Kirkwood instead of Arnold in that spot. Like it's not that
it doesn't work out money wise. You have to go below 1,000.
So let's say I use Michael Thomas as my captain. Went Kamara, Jones, Breeze, and then I use Kirkwood. So I throw Kirkwood in. How much money do I have left?
Do you have enough for a kicker?
No, I only have $100 left.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even work out the other way if I used Arnold then.
I got to go find it. I have so many freaking lineups active right now. I gotta go dig through here, but I made it earlier.
If I used Arnold with those 4 guys, I would have $1,100 left. So I could have Austin Carr or Justin Hardy or Zach Line.
Okay, I'm pulling it up. We're about to give out the winning lineup to the massive Thanksgiving night showdown. We're going to give it out here. All right, so we're going to go Breeze in the captain. We're going to go Thomas. We're going to go Julio. We're going to go Matt Ryan, and we're going to go Dan Arnold. And then, yeah, so we can flop that around, and we can put Thomas in captain. We can go Breeze, and we can go Will Lutz.
Okay, so what you can do is you can make that same lineup of the first four that you put in. If you use Kirkwood, you can afford Matt Bryant or Saints D.
So you can't go Kirkwood over anyone in this lineup. Oh, with the swapped captains. Yeah.
Yeah, if you use Breeze at captain.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you can use.
I see that. I see that lineup, Pat. You should just enter that lineup in everything because you want to be as rich as possible if Kirkwood gets there. You want to put as much of your net worth in Keith Kirkwood as you can.
That sounds like how I lose all my money every week. Is just picking this one guy who's no good and being like, yeah, "This is his week." It worked out once for me. Jermaine.
No, but you're gonna be so. If Keith Kirkwood has 7 targets, 74 yards, and a touchdown, and you are not rich, you are gonna be so tilted.
No, I don't get tilted like that. I just assume every week that every DraftKings lineup that I submit, I just assume I'm going to lose. So if I win, I'm like, oh, this is great. But I've already baked in the fact that I'm going to lose. So it doesn't.
Well, I'll be tilted for you. If you're not rich, come Friday morning with Keith Kirkwood going off, I'll be tilted for you.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. You can have my sympathy tilt.
All right. It'll be like tilting pangs for you.
All right. Pimp the podcast again before you get out of here.
Patreon.com/TakeCast for all these showdown pods. If you enjoy your entertainment being free, you can just go to the free iTunes feed for the TakeCast. We have amazing episodes there. A couple of really good recent ones. Pat will be on one, and some entrepreneurial type stuff. I think people like it. They seem to.
Yeah, Kevin was on the Sports Geek. That was a terrific episode.
Yeah, he was a sharp guy. I was glad he came on.
And it's great when you have Kevin on and then you have me on like a week later. My Canadian accent sounds a lot less than his, so it makes me sound kind of American.
I didn't notice while I was talking to him that he has one, and then I listened back to it and I was like, wow, he's just a Canuck.
Yeah, he is. He has the classic Canadian accent and just kicks ass all the time.
Yep, that's what a fella.
I mean, when you're doing stuff like him with like hockey training videos, you need the voice could just be an act. I don't know.
It's very good branding from him either way.
Completely agree. Anyway, you can follow Davis on Twitter at Davis Mattek. Again, you can subscribe to the TakeCast on iTunes. You can subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience on iTunes and wherever you can download podcasts. Plus, remember, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Thanksgiving Day, I'll be live in studio with Chris Meany, taking your questions, going over all of the Showdown slate, looking for some more angles. We'll have more information at that time. We're just going to have some fun because, it's Thanksgiving. What else are you doing on Thanksgiving? Like I said, trying to avoid your family. And right after that, I'll release the Sunday slate picks for DraftKings if you need some content to get you through the day. Or if you're driving around, it's something to listen to while you're leaving or going to your families for dinner or over the weekend because there's not a lot of fresh content coming out over Thanksgiving weekend. That's why it helps to be Canadian in the fantasy business. You work on every American holiday, so hey, you're the only one with new content. I know Davis is going to have new content over the weekend too, but this is one thing that we'll talk about if you listen to that podcast with Davis and I on his. Also, if you want to get in the draw for $20 DK, hit the like button on the episode, leave your DraftKings handle, tell me which defense you'd play that is not the Chicago Bears defense. Thank you all for watching. Have a safe holiday. Win some money, all right? I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!